Imagine this. Ancient diseases, maybe stirring from icy slumber. Um, Microscopic invaders sneaking past our body's defenses right into our brains.
Hmm.
And the very ground beneath our feet shifting, because the planet's got this fever.
Sounds like science fiction, almost.
It really does. But these are threads we've pulled from the science news you brought us for this deep dive, and wow, what a range.
Quite a mix.
We've got Arctic sea ice changes, a potential revolution in antibiotics, de-extinction, which is wild.
Definitely captures the imagination.
Then there's AI, ancient rocks telling history stories, these invisible microplastics, space exploration, birdwatching benefits, even wildfire tech.
A real snapshot of where science is right now.
Exactly. So our goal here is, well, to make sense of it all. Pull out the key insights, connect some dots maybe, and leave you feeling informed, not overwhelmed.
And maybe a bit awestruck too. Like you said, the pace of discovery is something else.
It really is. Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with that big climate signal.
That's good. The Arctic sea ice.
Right. The National Snow and Ice Data Center, they reported the lowest winter peak for Arctic sea ice in, 47 years of records?
That's right. Even lower than the last record in 2017, which was already pretty worrying.
Wow. So that's a big deal, climate-wise.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very, very clear signal. Remember, the Arctic is warming up about 4 times faster than the rest of the globe.
4 times faster.
Yeah. And hitting this record low for the winter maximum, well, it means there's less ice there as we head into the summer melt season.
And that has knock-on effects, right? It's not just about polar bears, as important as they are.
Exactly. This isn't just a local Arctic issue. The reports you looked at are spot on. Melting Arctic ice messes with global weather patterns.
How so? Like, what kind of effects are we talking about further south?
Well, think of the Arctic as a kind of global air conditioner. Less ice means less sunlight gets reflected back into space, so the ocean absorbs more heat, leading to more warming.
A feedback loop.
Precisely. And it also affects the jet stream, that big river of air high up that steers weather systems.
Ah, right. I've heard about that.
When the Arctic warms faster than the mid-latitudes, the temperature difference weakens, and the jet stream can become wavier, more sluggish.
Sluggish? What does that mean for weather? Like, down here?
It means weather patterns can get stuck. So you might see more prolonged heat waves in summer, or persistent storms and rain, because the system moving them along has slowed down.
Huh. So that weird weather week we had last month, maybe connected.
It's definitely the kind of disruption scientists are talking about. One source called it a major alarm bell for the planet's climate system. It really impacts weather much closer to home than you might think, and ocean currents too, potentially affecting marine life, food chains. It's all connected.
Okay, a stark warning then. Let's pivot to something that sounds, well, potentially more hopeful. Health news.
Please, yes.
Researchers at McMaster University, they found a whole new class of antibiotics. First major find in nearly 30 years.
Yeah, this is huge news. Really significant. We've been facing this growing crisis of antimicrobial resistance. Superbugs.
Right, where our current drugs just don't work anymore.
Exactly. So finding a completely new class, something bacteria haven't seen before, that's incredibly important. A real glimmer of hope.
And where did they find this miracle molecule?
Get this in bacteria from a simple backyard soil sample.
No way, just dirt.
Just dirt. The molecule is called lariocidin. And the really exciting part is how it works. It's got a totally novel mechanism.
Okay, so how does it attack the bacteria differently?
It goes after their protein-making machinery. Think of that as the bacteria's essential factory for building everything it needs to survive and multiply. Lariocidin gums up the works.
Ah, okay, so it hits something really fundamental.
Exactly. And because it's a new line of attack, it's potentially much harder for bacteria to evolve resistance quickly compared to drugs they've been exposed to for decades.
Makes sense. And the early results sound promising.
Very promising. Effective against resistant strains in the lab, didn't seem toxic to human cells in those early tests. And it even worked in animal infection models.
That's great. But obviously, there's a long road from lab discovery to an actual pill you can take.
Oh, absolutely. The sources are clear on that. They need to potentially tweak the molecule, figure out how to make it in large quantities, then years of clinical trials in humans. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Still, feels like a vital step for, our future health. Does a discovery like this maybe spur more research funding in this area? Because I heard that's been a problem.
That's a really good point. The economics haven't always favored antibiotic development. A big, novel find like this could help reinvigorate the field, attract more investment. It certainly shows the value of looking in unexpected places, like your backyard.
Amazing. Okay, from tiny bacteria to, well, something much bigger and extinct. Or maybe not. Did scientists really bring back the dire wolf?
Huh. Yeah, that headline definitely grabs you. Colossal Bioscience is the same company working on mammoths and dodos.
Right, the de-extinction company.
They announced what they're calling the world's first successfully de-extincted animal, the dire wolf. Yeah, yes, the Game of Thrones one.
Wow, how do they do that?
They used a combination of technologies, ancient DNA recovered from dire wolf fossils, advanced gene editing tools like CRISPR and cloning techniques. They used the gray wolf, its closest living relative, as the sort of foundation.
Okay, so they edited a gray wolf.
Essentially, yes. They modified the gray wolf genome using the ancient dire wolf DNA sequences to try and recreate key dire wolf traits. And they've produced 3 healthy pups. It's a big technical step for their methods.
But wait, the sources made a point of saying these aren't exact copies, right?
Crucial distinction, yes. They're essentially hybrids, engineered to resemble the extinct dire wolf, physically and maybe behaviorally, but genetically they're a mix.
So not quite Jurassic Park bringing back a pure T-Rex.
Not quite. More like creating a very, very convincing look-alike with some of the ancient genetic parts. It's a milestone for the technology for sure.
But it raises questions, doesn't it? Ethical ones, ecological ones.
Absolutely. What does it mean to bring back an approximation? What's the impact on current ecosystems if you introduce them? Are we playing God? What are our responsibilities to these engineered animals? It definitely gives you pause for thought.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's shift from the past to a potentially risky future. Google DeepMind researchers, including a co-founder, Shane Legg, they've put out a paper with a pretty stark prediction about AI.
Yes, this one caused a stir. They're suggesting that human-level AI, artificial general intelligence, or AGI, could be here as early as 2030.
2030. That's incredibly soon.
It is. And the warning that came with it was even stronger. The paper explicitly states that such powerful AI could pose severe risks, even, and I quote, existential threats that could permanently destroy humanity.
Wow. That's heavy, coming from DeepMind itself.
Extremely heavy. They're not talking about specific robot uprising scenarios, but more about the fundamental risks of creating something vastly more intelligent than us, things like misuse, or the AI developing goals that aren't aligned with ours, leading to catastrophic outcomes.
It sounds like what DeepMind's CEO has been saying recently, too, about needing international oversight and being worried about the pace.
Exactly. It reflects a growing concern within the AI research community itself. The focus of the paper is really on the need to get ahead of this, to develop preventative measures now to manage these risks.
It makes you think, though, beyond the, end of the world scenario, what are the more immediate worries these researchers might have?
Well, even short of full AGI, the near-term risks are significant. Things like increasingly sophisticated AI being used for autonomous weapons, large-scale disinformation campaigns, massive economic disruption through automation, or ingrained biases in AI systems leading to unfair outcomes.
Right. Stuff that's already kind of starting to happen.
Precisely. So the paper is a call to action on managing those risks too, while also keeping an eye on the bigger, longer-term possibilities, both good and bad. It really forces you to think about how society adapts. Are we ready? How do we ensure it stays beneficial?
Lots to grapple with there. Okay, let's travel back in time again. Ancient Rome, but with a geological twist.
Yeah, this is fascinating. New evidence linking the fall of the Roman Empire, or at least contributing to it, with a mini ice age.
A mini ice age? How did they figure that out?
By looking at tiny crystals called zircons found in rocks in Iceland. These particular zircons have a unique chemical fingerprint that matches rocks found only in Greenland.
Okay, so how did Greenland rocks get to Iceland?
The theory is massive icebergs. During a cold period known as the Late Antique Little Ice Age, around the 6th century CE, huge chunks of ice likely broke off Greenland's ice sheet carrying these minerals and drifted across the ocean to Iceland.
Whoa, and that suggests a really significant cooling event was happening back then.
Exactly, a pretty abrupt and severe climate shift. And think about the impact of a prolonged cold snap like that in the 6th century.
Widespread crop failures, I imagine, less food.
Definitely. Leading to famine, social unrest, probably mass migrations as people sought warmer areas or more resources, all putting immense pressure on an already complex and frankly strained Roman Empire.
So it wasn't the cause, but maybe a major contributing factor.
That's how one researcher put it, like the straw that broke the camel's back. The empire had internal problems for sure, but this major environmental shock could have weakened it significantly, accelerating its decline.
It's incredible how geology can shed light on history like that. Makes you think about climate shifts today, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A powerful reminder of how vulnerable societies can be to environmental change.
Okay, speaking of things getting into places they shouldn't, microplastics in human brains. That sounds bad.
It's certainly disturbing news. A study analyzed human brain tissue samples, collected over 25 years actually.
Wow, long term.
Yeah. And they found micro and nanoplastics accumulating in the brain tissue, not just present, but accumulating.
And the levels are going up over time.
Apparently so. The concentration was almost 50% higher in the more recent samples compared to those from around 2016. And interestingly, the levels reported in the brain seemed higher than those found in other organs, like the liver or blood in some other studies.
Higher in the brain. Yikes. Do they know what effect this has on brain function?
That's the million-dollar question, really. The direct effects on the brain itself are still being investigated. It's early days for that specific research.
But there have been other studies linking microplastics to health problems, haven't there?
Yes. The sources mentioned previous research linking microplastics in our blood to a higher risk of things like heart attack and stroke. And there's some preliminary work hinting at possible cognitive issues, too.
It just underscores how everywhere these things are. In the air, water, food, and now apparently inside our heads.
It's quite sobering. It highlights the sheer pervasiveness of plastic pollution. Scientists are now really focused on understanding how they cross the blood-brain barrier and what the potential long-term neurological consequences might be. Makes you think about your own plastic use, for sure.
Definitely. Okay, shifting focus outwards now. Way outwards. To space. Farewell to Gaia.
Yeah, a bit bittersweet, this one. The European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft has officially ended its operations after more than a decade of incredible work.
10 years already. Wow. What was Gaia's main job again?
Its mission was to map our Milky Way galaxy with unprecedented precision. It gathered incredibly detailed data on billions, with a B, of stars.
Billions? What kind of data?
Their exact positions, how far away they are, how they're moving through space, velocity, trajectory. It's given us this incredibly dynamic 3D map of our galaxy.
So it basically revolutionized our view of the Milky Way.
Absolutely. It's fundamentally changed our understanding of the galaxy's structure, its history, how it formed and evolved. Just a treasure trove of information.
And even though the spacecraft is done, the data lives on, right?
Oh, for years to come. Decades, probably. Astronomers will be mining the Gaia dataset for discoveries for a very long time, studying everything from dark matter distribution to star life cycles, finding exoplanets. Its legacy is huge.
A testament to space exploration. Cool. Okay, back down to Earth. Birdwatching. Apparently, it's booming.
It seems so, especially among younger people, interestingly. Using smartphones, apps like Merlin Bird ID.
Ah, yeah, I've seen those. But it's more than just a hobby, the reports suggest. Health benefits.
Definitely. Studies show that getting out in nature, focusing on observing birds, it significantly reduces stress, boosts mental well-being. It's good for you.
Nice. And there's a science angle, too. Citizen science.
Yeah, this is really cool. All those people uploading photos, sound recordings, checklists of birds they've seen, that provides invaluable data for researchers.
How do scientists use that data?
For tracking bird populations on a massive scale, understanding migration patterns, seeing how ranges are shifting maybe due to climate change and informing conservation efforts. Where do we need to protect habitats? Which species are declining?
So it's a win-win. Good for your head, good for the birds, good for science.
Exactly. A great example of how enjoying nature can also contribute directly to understanding and protecting it. Maybe something to try if you're looking for a relaxing, rewarding pastime.
Might just do that. Okay, finally, let's talk about some tech aimed at a really serious problem. Wildfires.
Right. A German company, Dryad Networks, they've unveiled an AI-powered drone system called Silvagard.
Silvagard. And it's for detecting wildfires faster.
Faster detection and monitoring, yeah. It's designed to integrate with their existing system, Silvanet, which uses sensors placed in forests.
What do those sensors detect? Smoke.
Even earlier than smoke, ideally. They sniff out the specific gases released during the very early smoldering stage of a fire, often before there are even visible flames or significant smoke.
Wow, super early detection.
That's the goal. So when those ground sensors pick up something suspicious, the AI automatically sends a drone to that exact spot.
And the drone gives eyes on the situation.
Exactly. It provides real-time visual images, plus infrared images to see through smoke or detect heat spots. It gives firefighters and responders a much quicker, more accurate picture of what's happening right at the potential start of a fire.
That seems incredibly important, especially with wildfires getting more frequent and intense because of, well, climate change again.
It's crucial. Getting that accurate intel in the first few minutes or hours can make all the difference in containment, stopping a small fire from becoming a huge disaster. Early detection is absolutely key.
Encouraging to see AI being used for something like this. Okay, well, that wraps up our tour through the science headlines.
What a range it was.
Seriously. From Arctic ice melt affecting weather patterns down here, to finding new antibiotics in the soil, thinking about bringing back extinct animals, the sheer speed of AI.
The history hidden in rocks, plastics in our brains, mapping the galaxy, the simple joy and scientific value of birdwatching, and new tech to fight fires.
Yeah. Hopefully diving into these gives you, our listener, a clearer picture of what's happening without feeling totally buried in details. It's fascinating how things connect, isn't it?
It really is. Like how understanding past climate shifts, like that mini ice age affecting Rome, gives us context for the changes we're seeing now. Or how the same tech advances driving AI might also help us tackle environmental problems like wildfires.
Absolutely. So as you think about all this, the micro, the macro, the past, the future, the potential, the risks, what does it all suggest to you? What kind of future are we looking at?
And maybe what's our role, individually and collectively, in shaping it?
Good questions to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.